Hey everybody, from Beantown to your town. This is the Beantown Beatdown. I'm Matthew Barrs, along with my boy Gabe.
Gabe Thomas here, also from Beantown.
That's right. Got some good news for you. First and foremost, Saturday night is going to be a double dose of boxing and mixed martial arts. First, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on NBC, Premier Boxing Champions. James Delgado taking on Andre Darrell for the super middleweight championship of the world. No, sorry, that's the middleweight championship of the world. Yeah, okay. The vacant IBF middleweight championship. Should be a good fight, and it's also taking place right here in Boston.
Oh yeah, hometown pride.
That's right. It's taking place here live at the Guinness Arena at Boston University. That's actually where I had my graduation.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, because I went to ACC for my last 2 years.
Right. And
ACC, another course to college that was close to Brighton High, and we went there around Boston University. We're close there, and we had the graduation there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet.
Yep. So that was good. And also later on that night, UFC pay-per-view, UFC 187, and it is going down for reals. First and foremost, the middleweight title fight between Chris Weidman and Vitor Belfort. This is a fight everyone's been looking forward to for years. Vitor Belfort, former UFC heavyweight champion, former UFC light heavyweight champion, now tries to be the middleweight champion, trying to make history, trying to be the first Triple Crown UFC champion. And, of course, he's taking on Chris Weidman, who had a good real first title defense against Lyoto Machida, put on a great fight. And in this fight, I definitely see Vitor winning this fight. I see him winning it by 4th round knockout. I mean, Weidman striking is a little suspect, and I know you guys are going to say, well, what about him knocking out Anderson Silva? Well, Anderson was playing, and, he was just playing around and doing like this, and then Weidman didn't fall for it and just knocked him out. So, Weidman does have some good strikes and all, but going up against Vitor Belfort, who's a legend, a veteran, one of the real last fighters from the old school UFC that's still fighting to this day.
Right.
And plus Vitor lately, he's just been knocking motherfuckers out, with not only just with his hands, but with his knees and his kicks, So I got Vitor winning it by knockout. And then, in the main event, Anthony Rumble Johnson taking on Daniel Cormier for the vacant UFC light heavyweight title. Of course, as we all know, John Jones got in trouble. He, left the scene of a hit-and-run accident with a pregnant woman. And pregnant woman's okay, but since then, John Jones has been stripped of the title because he's going through the courts and stuff like that.
So I guess these fight athletes aren't any less immune to getting in trouble in the real world like some of the other athletes nowadays.
Yeah, and for John Jones, this has just been it's just kind of sad, because because after the fight with Daniel Cormier, he got popped for cocaine. He tested positive for cocaine, and then of course, leading up to the fight with Anthony Rumble Johnson, looked like he was getting in shape, and then all this happens, and plus in the car they found he was in the car with strippers, and they busted cheating on his wife, and also there was marijuana in the car as well.
I was about to say that one in the middle, I think it shouldn't really be a legal issue. It's between him and his wife. I think we sensationalize, infidelity and stuff too much and turn it into a legal issue. And unless they're getting a divorce, it's not a legal issue. I don't think. I think
Yeah.
that shouldn't be part of. It shouldn't be part of stripping him of his title. The drugs and other stuff, that's a legal issue. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't. At the same time, I don't condone him cheating on his wife or whatever.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it,
Yeah.
but it's what his wife decides to do about that. It's her,
Yeah,
her
exactly.
business. Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're here now, and it's Anthony Johnson versus Daniel Cormier. And I was actually talking to a guy at Barnes and Nobles when I was reading the Sports Illustrated magazine, and then I was talking about the UFC, and I was talking about this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel Cormier, they're both wrestlers. They're both Division I wrestlers, NCAA and stuff. But Daniel Cormier is a two-time Olympian. And I've said this before. In the world of mixed martial arts, when you go up against an Olympic grappler, like a person who's been in the Olympics for judo or in, wrestling, freestyle, Greco-Roman, you got to rethink the whole grappling game. And so Daniel Cormier definitely has the advantage on the ground. On the feet, standing up, striking, I say that they're both even. They both got knockout power in their hands. Daniel Cormier's chin, stood up to some punches. Anthony Johnson, maybe, I don't know. I mean, he's going up against someone with the power of Daniel Cormier, so, who knows? But I picked Cormier to win this in 5 rounds. I think it's going to be a tough fight. But I honestly picked Daniel Cormier to win this fight. And it's going to be really going to be a good fight. Going to order the fight. Going to get some dominoes and some liquor for this fight.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be good for Memorial Day weekend.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole other way to celebrate.
Yep. And keeping it with the UFC, I was watching UFC tonight, last night on Fox Sports 1.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Blacknick, one of the old announcers from the old school UFC, he's being inducted into the Hall of Fame. He passed away in 2012 of heart complications. And Jeff Blacknick was an Olympic silver medalist, too, in wrestling. Yeah, and, Jeff, it's because of Jeff Blacknick, the term mixed martial arts was invented. He actually came up with the term mixed martial arts because back in the days, it was known as NHB, no holds barred. Because that's what it was perceived back in the days, no holds barred.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were trying to get it legalized, from the John McCain witch hunt and stuff like that, he came up with the term mixed martial arts. Not just,
So that's fascinating because it goes both to more what it actually is, which is bringing in different types of martial arts and whatever, but also, like you said, it's for the John McCains and stuff. It sounds better. It sounds more legit in a way. I don't know, but I think it was both of those things at the same time. Like it was sort of more exciting, and it's actually descriptive of what it is, and it helped legitimize it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's all because of him, and really the UFC and actually the whole sport of mixed martial arts. It really has, come a long, long way since then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see him in the Hall of Fame. Also, I also heard that they're also putting fights in the Hall of Fame too. Like
really?
The first fight that's going into the Hall of Fame is the rematch between Matt Hughes and Frank Trigg. That was the fight where Frank Trigg had Matt Hughes, and it looked like he had him in the choke, in the sleeper hold.
Mm-hmm.
And then Matt Hughes got out. He got up. He picked him up and brought him back into his corner on his shoulder and went boom, slammed him. And that's when Mike Goldberg did the famous "Here we go." It was nice. Incredible. Nice. It's one of the best sound bites ever in UFC history.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
And also keeping it with UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's who's on the cover of Sports Illustrated here. Ronda Rousey.
Very nice.
Oh, yeah. And they call her the world's most dominant athlete. And you know what? You can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, actually for the past 2-3 years now, no athlete has been more dominant than Ronda Rousey. Okay, sorry, LeBron James. Yeah, it's the NBA playoffs, and by the way, LeBron won last night in Game 1 against the Hawks.
Okay.
But there's nobody in sports that's dominating like Ronda Rousey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody in tennis, nobody in baseball, football. I mean, not anybody. I mean, and this just goes to further show Ronda Rousey's, celebrity, not only in sports but in just pop culture. Period. I mean, she's going to be in the new Entourage movie.
Is she really?
Oh yeah, she's going to be in there. She actually beats up Turtle. Yeah, she beats up Turtle.
Well, that I might actually have to see now.
Oh yeah, and of course, she has like not a big role in there. You know, she has a few appearances. Also, look for appearance from our own Beantown boy and producer of the movie and show, Mark Wahlberg.
Nice.
And let's see, she's also in a movie, 22 Mile, that's going to be coming out soon, and she's also going to be in a documentary film. Yeah. Some documentaries about mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. And you can also catch her. August 1st when she takes on Betcha Correia over in Brazil. August 1st, UFC. Yep, defending the belt. And she really is the best, so go pick it up now. It's on news.
Let's get another shot of her.
Yep, go pick it up now on newsstands. Read about her. Also get her book too, My Fight, Your Fight, which is out on newsstands now. Haven't read it yet, but I'm planning on doing it. So go get it. It's available at Barnes & Nobles and whatever books and magazine stores. Take it, read it, and for those of you who have a crush on Ronda, beat to it.
Here we go again. Yes.
Oh, yes. All right, so Gabe, you have a rant of the day.
That goes straight into my rant of the day here, rant of the day.
Yeah.
I brought up one of the first video podcasts we did. I brought up the whole idea and question of, is there sexuality in fighting? Is there something sexy about it? Whether or not we want to acknowledge that. And it's just you said you brought Sports Illustrated, and they also do the swimsuit issue.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. There are talking about her as an athlete on the Sports Illustrated, but there's also something very sexual about that, as you said so eloquently. I think that's for a lot of you, it's probably easier to see with the female fighters and stuff. I wonder about the whole progression of that. As far as I was concerned, in the days of the WWE, it was like, which again, a lot of you fans don't like, and that's all right. But that was a whole entertainment platform, and the women were there usually as like the wives of the fighters, or managers, or for lack of a better word, a substitute for cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So what are the cheerleaders for in sports? They're yes, they're to bring up the energy in the crowd and to pump people up, but they're also obviously very sexual, and there to bring the sexuality for especially the male fans. So I think that now that we have, I'm glad that we have women fighters and that they're more equalized, and Ronda Rousey is certainly bringing the heat, as you said.
Oh yeah.
But there's still that sort of, I think, brings the question more to a lot of your minds. Like if you have you should respect her as a fighter, as an athlete, but you also have these a lot of people have these sexual fantasies about her. Was she the one that you had said you had a fantasy about?
Oh yeah. The fantasy where me and her, we just we have Katy Perry as our sex slave.
Yes,
Yeah.
that one. Yes. Yeah. So it shows that there's much more layers to this. I like also that there's another sort of more of the fighters, even though I'm guessing there's sexual energy between you.
Yeah.
But you're more of the fighters and the athletes on this level, and Katy Perry's, doing what you say.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, with and I've said this before about Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey has the total package. I mean, she's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
She can fight,
mm-hmm.
and she's badass.
Right, totally.
I mean, she has the total package, and and it also helps that she's she's an Olympian too, because she was the first woman on the USA judo team to ever win a medal.
Mm-hmm.
No woman in America has won has won a medal in judo. Not any medal, not
something
a bronze.
else we don't know.
Yeah, she won in 2008 at the Beijing Games. She won she won a bronze, and of course at the next Olympics in 2012 over in London, England, Caitlin Harrison won the gold. She became the first female to win a gold and the second one to win just a medal, period.
Mm-hmm.
And of course now with the and I think now with the Olympics coming up in 2016 over in Brazil, which is the mecca of mixed martial arts, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some people out there, some MMA organizations that are going to be looking for the next Ronda Rousey.
Right. Totally. So anyway, I think it's I think some of you have liked to keep your sports heroes and your sexual heroes separate, but Ronda Rousey is the complete package, and other female fighters, I'm sure, like her are like that, and that I think it's okay that you can also have a fantasy about her while respecting her as an athlete and a fighter and whatever else. And as a guy who likes men, I'm going to say that I feel the same way about certain athletes out there, and we talked about this before, that there are gay fight fans, and that sometimes at least maybe just in our mind we mix sexuality in there, but it's not something to be threatened by. It's something that what did you say that last time? You said whatever gets more people to the stadium.
Yeah, whatever puts the asses in the seats.
Exactly that. So yeah, that's something else. I wore my Buddha shirt today because I was planning to talk about my pacifist angle, and that and that I'm a bit conflicted about what professional fighting actually means, and what it will mean in the future. But this kind of ties into that, in that I think it actually is a little bit more enlightening, surprisingly, to have sexuality involved, because I think when it's just about the violence, it's more degrading to someone. It's more it's about anger and raw feelings, which is good, but I don't think that that's really the best hope for humanity. And so I think that some people think that sexuality is raw and grotesque, but I think in terms of the fight world, to add sexuality is actually enlighten it a little bit more. There's a species of monkey that we may be related to, called the bonobos. Jane Goodall apparently studied them, as well as the chimpanzees or whatever else she did, and they actually try and avoid fighting at all costs, and the only best way to do that is through sex. And there's actually documented evidence that when usually a male starts bringing in fighting, that other males and females come in and they overpower him with sex instead. So interesting commentary about these sort of two forces of passion, and so again, I think we are related to them. I think I think we get out as much aggression and whatever else through sex. And so I think, therefore, in terms of professional fighting, whatever, sexuality is actually part of the key to make it a little bit less aggressive.
So they overpower the male instead of fighting.
He tries to fight. He tries to start something with someone, and sometimes it's a man, sometimes it's a woman, or both. I don't even know exactly how it goes.
I think that's called rape.
Well, perhaps. But the animal world is very different. A lot of ways women get pregnant in the animal world is something we might call rape, in human terms. But yeah, I mean that's it's, even if it is rape, it's still a way to stop violence, which they consider worse. So take that as you will. I'm not condoning. Rape is a very horrible form of violence in humans, and I'm not condoning anything about that. But in terms of animals, and in terms of being less physically aggressive, I'm just trying to say I think sexuality is a good part of that. And so yeah, if you are looking at a fighter and whatever, and feel the sexual urge towards them, whether it's a man or a woman, embrace that as well. I think it doesn't degrade them as a fighter, and it doesn't. And you might feel conflicted, but I don't think it actually conflicts anything about it. In fact, like I'm saying, I think it might help us, be a little bit less aggressive and a little bit more compassionate when we still have professional fighting in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Not sure about the whole monkey loving thing, but okay. Yeah.
That was an attempt to tie it into something else, to talk about where we came from, but.
Alright, so now we're going to get into the blast from the past, and this is an old UFC. UFC 8. This took place in Beantown, Puerto Rico. It was actually supposed to take place in New York, but then they, at the last minute, they packed it up because of, this is when they were starting to crack down. John McCain and, the United States government was starting to track, blah.
Yeah,
they were
crack down.
Yeah, crack down on mixed martial arts, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And believe it or not, when they went to Puerto Rico and tried to go to court for this, the court was actually near an arena where they did cockfighting.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, if I was one of the guys in the UFC, if I was one of the owners, I'd be like, wait a minute, we need permission. I mean, you got an arena where you do chickens fighting each other. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
What is with this bullshit?
Exactly.
Yeah. But, and of course, UFC 8, there was this is when the UFC was still a tournament and stuff. And the tournament they were doing was the David and Goliath tournament, which was, they had big, heavy guys, and they would take on little guys. It's like the little man against the big man and stuff.
Right. And we talked about that on one episode, too, and we said that that's, like, kind of the basis of a lot of martial arts movies, is like the little guy and being the underdog, literally, and coming up from behind.
Yeah, and this tournament was had a lot of great moments. Well, first, it was the debut of Don the Predator Fry, and he was a disciple of Dan Severn, who had competed in the UFC. He was like the UFC 5 tournament champion and had just won the first ever Ultimate Championship. And Don Fry was a wrestler over at Arizona State University, where Dan Severn was his coach, his assistant coach,
Mm.
and his teammate was Randy Couture, because Couture wrestled for a bit at Arizona State University, and then after doing collegiate wrestling, Don Fry did 4 years of boxing, and then after his 4 years, he was actually taking care of horses. He was doing horseshoes, and then he was going through a divorce and was doing judo. And then when he heard about Dan Severn going into the UFC, and he called him up, said if he can get him in, and they got in. And he, and of course, he was really one of the first real mixed martial artists. He was the one that was really, cross training and putting all this stuff together. I mean, this was really the beginning of it. There was Marco Huas and there was Boss Rutan over in Japan, but Don Fry, man, mixing boxing with wrestling and judo. In fact, in the first fight of the tournament, he knocked out Thomas Ramirez, and Thomas Ramirez, I found out, was a black belt in karate, but he wasn't like a real karate master or anything. He was actually a New York City cab driver, and he got knocked out. And then, of course, the biggest highlight was when Paul Herrera, Tank Abbott's disciple, and was also a wrestling coach for Tito Ortiz. He was in the tournament against Gary Goodrich, and of course, the highlight is when Paul Herrera shoots in for a double leg takedown, and Gary Goodrich wraps him up, in a crucifix, and just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elbows to the head. Yeah, and
that's some shit.
Oh yes, that's a highlight that still gets played to this day.
Right.
It's one of the great moments out there. And of course, Goodrich and Fry, they go into the finals, and Don Fry beats him and becomes the UFC 8 tournament champion winner. And also on that night, it was the third super fight, and it was the third time that involved Ken Shamrock. Actually, it was the fourth super fight. The first super fight was at UFC 5 when he fought Royce Gracie to a draw. And then the second one was at UFC 6 when he beat Dan Severn, choked him out. Then UFC 7 when he fought Oleg Taktarov, and that went to a draw. And this fight in the super fight, Ken Shamrock took on Chemo. And Chemo was already famous for the UFC 3 fight with Royce Gracie, pushing Royce Gracie to the limit, until he got choked out. And then when Royce Gracie went to go on and compete in UFC 3, Royce Gracie couldn't go on and compete. He had to be, carried there, to the octagon, and then they threw in the towel, say he couldn't continue and he couldn't see and whatever. And this was that was a good fight, and Shamrock submitted Chemo with a knee bar. It looked like an ankle lock, but it was actually a knee bar, and submitted Chemo. And of course, Chemo would go on later on to fight and add to his legend of being a Hawaiian fighting legend.
Right.
But
so you're saying
Shamrock
this,
won.
Yeah. So you're saying this was like the fourth super fight. We just had a big super fight, obviously. So.
Oh yeah, Mayweather Pacquiao.
Yeah. So that's how many would you say now that was in the history of super fights?
Super fights. Around this time it was like 95, 96. Actually, I can't really tell you.
Okay.
But the thing about UFC 8, in my opinion, this is when the cross training, like the first legitimate mixed martial arts artists began. It was no longer the fighters who like one guy would have like a black belt in karate, teach karate, or like or the guys who would fight, and they have a job on the side, not really making a go for it. those kind of fighters were dying off. And then in the years to come later, once the UFC started being more legit, with the rounds and the gloves, and and started fighting in other places, those it became more apparent it was more of a sport, and that's where we are now. It's like Joe Rogan said, to make it to the to get to the UFC, and to stay in it, you have to be almost obsessed, fanatical and stuff. There's no painting houses on the side or working at CVS.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying that like the whole days of like the moonlighting, doing other stuff, was sort of over. And what were you saying? Were you saying that it was less that they also do more like variety in their fighting now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what it takes, to make it in mixed martial arts.
Right.
So that's what it took, and still one of the best early UFC events. Get it on DVD or watch it on YouTube whenever you can. It's phenomenal.
Awesome.
Yes. And now, of course, this is going into my rant of the day. And my rant of the day is going to be on Al Haymon's Premier Boxing Champions. And I gotta say, even though we're still in 2015 and we're just getting into the summertime, hands down, Al Haymon is the promoter of the year. Promoter of the year, period. I mean, he's made tons of money off Mayweather. He just made like $50 million off the fight with Mayweather Pacquiao. His Premier Boxing Champions thing has been going off pretty well. I mean, how could you not call him promoter of the year? And the thing is, with Premier Boxing Champions is what they're doing right is they're putting free fights on TV. I mean, that used to happen back in the 60s and the 70s,
right.
on local networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and then and on ESPN too. They still do fights on ESPN, but of course now Premier Boxing Champions will be doing ESPN as well, because Premier Boxing Champions has a deal with ABC, which is also owned by Disney, and Disney also owns ESPN. Yes, folks, Mickey Mouse owns ESPN.
Oh. Who would have seen the day? Who would have thought?
Oh, yeah. Oh, kids! Let's go watch two men beat the crap out of each other in the ring. Oh!
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm guessing the princesses don't stop by, unlike Disneyland.
Oh, yes.
They don't stop by to watch. I'm sure some of them, but
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, and the other thing with Al Haymon is, he really does care about the sport of boxing. I mean, boxing promoters nowadays, it's so much about, the money. It's all about, that's why they do so much of the premium cable channels like HBO and Showtimes and the pay-per-views. But most people don't have cable. They can't watch big fights.
Right.
They can't order pay-per-views. They can't watch HBO and Showtime. They can't even watch ESPN fights.
Right.
So what do? You put the fights back on primetime network. I mean, that's what. People have been talking about it for years, but nobody really stepped up to the plate. And well, Al Haymon, he stepped up, and put it on NBC. Put it on ABC, CBS, and now he's going to be doing it on ESPN now too. And it's going to help the sport of boxing. I mean, people have been saying like Mayweather Pacquiao, this is the fight to save boxing. I mean, they said that years ago about De La Hoya and Mayweather. And I remember that too because I was a senior in high school. But the only way that boxing is ever going to be saved is by Premier Boxing Champions. This is saving boxing. It's not going to be one fight or one promoter, of course, that's going to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, boxing is going to be saved by more free fights on primetime television.
Right. More people can actually watch it, actually be involved. Said.
And plus, you get to see these fighters who may not be big in like the whole mainstream, but they're big in boxing. Like not every boxer has crossed over like Mayweather or Pacquiao or Holyfield or Tyson.
Right.
I mean, you got, and these are big stars. Peter Quillen, Adrian Broner, Danny Garcia, the Durrell brothers, Danny Jacobs. These are all big-name boxers. And I think the more exposure they get on television, then the more people will know their names. Even non-boxing fans will know who they are.
Right, exactly. I mean, I haven't heard of many of those, and it's probably because boxing is like sort of insulated, and less known about. But as you said, you bring more people in, you bring in more public, then they will be known.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to Al Heyman. I mean, at this point, nobody is saying no to Al Heyman. Okay, nobody. If Al Heyman wanted to do like a boxing show on Lifetime, who's going to say no to him? I mean, this is the guy who made Floyd Mayweather rich with the $1 million contract over at Showtime. I mean, nobody is going to say no to Al Heyman. And the thing about Al Heyman is that, he has had his picture taken, but you'll rarely see him at a press conference. Even for the Mayweather fights, he's usually in the background somewhere and stuff. Adds a little bit more to the mystery to, being in the background and stuff. I mean, because most promoters, they like to be out there and say, like, this is the fight, here's what's going to happen. They like their face out there. And Al Heyman, he kind of wants the focus to be more on the fighters.
Right, exactly. And I think that's awesome. I think that some of maybe the best people to be in positions of promoting or the most noble people for sure, are the ones who won't want it to be about themselves, who won't want it to be about the sport of boxing or about the boxers or about something like that. Like you said, he takes a little bit to the background, and maybe it is just to hype up some mystery, but maybe it's like he really believes that this is about the people that make the sport what it is instead of the people that promote it.
Yeah, exactly. And plus the fighters are getting paid too.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. They're getting paid money, and Al Heyman has a good reputation as a great promoter. He's not butt fucking the fighters up the ass, unlike Don King and Bob Arum have done in the past. Just take a poor fighter, take his money, and butt fuck him up the ass. So not literally.
Not literally, and not to be offensive, like.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. I love gay people.
Yeah.
That's why you and I are good friends.
I know you do.
But yeah, Al Heyman, he's done everything right, and some people have been mad at him because they say like, well, this is gonna take away money, from HBO and Showtime, and this could kill the business. No, it's not. It's helping the business. Okay, let's not forget, people. Some people can't afford cable.
Right.
You can't afford cable. I mean, back in the day, that was, once they took the fights off primetime television, the only way you could watch fights was on like USA Network when they did their Tuesday night fights. I remember that. That's how old I am. Watching fights on ESPN, or you would watch fights on Showtime and HBO. You couldn't watch any boxing matches on the regular channels.
Right.
And and now we got fights for free on TV. So that makes it good.
It does. And I think it goes. I mean, I think that that's a false argument all around the whole thing. The whole thing about we have to charge people and we have to be exorbitant about it. Like I actually in a debate class I argued against the whole anti-piracy thing because they were like for music, they were like a lot of people say, well, the artists are going to suffer and this and that if we don't if we don't have every single person paying, for either buy the song or buy the CD, etc. But I looked into it. I did some research. The bulk majority of their money actually comes from concert tickets. And John Mayer was one who decided that he was going to do as many concerts as possible. In 1 year, he did 188 concerts, which is a lot,
You did 188
188 in a year. That's like almost every other day. Yeah.
Wow. When did he find the time to fuck Katy Perry?
God knows. But I think this was before his Katy Perry days. But maybe he didn't have a woman. Maybe that was part of it. But anyway, but yeah, and so basically, I talked about that. I was like, the thing is, maybe if these artists knew where their money was actually coming from, they wouldn't be so stingy about that. And more people listen to their music if they have more access to their music. So again, it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt the industry. Overall, it's gonna spread the industry further.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also now, also I forgot to mention, it's on Spike too, and yeah, just a couple of weeks ago a few weeks ago they had some good fights on Spike, and they got another one coming up next Friday, Amir Khan versus Chris Algieri. I mean, that should be a barn burner, taking place in Brooklyn on Spike, and of course Spike TV, is. They're kicking ass on Friday night fights, with Premier Boxing Champions, Glory, Kickboxing, and Bellator MMA, which had a fight last Friday. That was awesome. So I'm also going to talk about that more on our next episode.
Okay.
And that's it for now. Go to youtube.com/serpentscribe7. Comment.
Subscribe, comment.
Yeah, subscribe, comment. Also, in the near future, we're also going to be doing some new things for our show, and stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for new news.
Yes. Yeah. And now, from Beantown, your town, this is the Beantown Beatdown. I'm Matthew Barris.
Gabe Shamus.
Vayos con Dios.